everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to Art Project's latest Constellations Assembly event as part of our Pushing for Spatial Justice series, A Right to Decide, Empowering Children to Shape Cultural Space. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Marla Yami, and I'm the curator at Art Projects. If you require a visual description, I am a mixed race woman in my early 30s with medium length brown hair and glasses. So, for those of you who may not know us, Art Projects is a leading public art commissioning organization specializing in social practice, meaning all of our work involves engaging communities through the process of creating public art projects. Art Projects online constellations assemblies are designed to share learning and knowledge relating to pressing issues facing the public arts sector today. As part of our latest series titled Pushing for Spatial Justice, we are exploring the role that art and artists can play in advocating for more inclusive cities. The series takes inspiration from Thomas Aquilina's research into spatial justice, in particular his 2025 essay, Who's Right, What Right, and Where's That Right? Through these events, focusing on varying rights to public space, we will be highlighting the importance of community voices in determining whose rights and what rights are centered. Our talk today, A Right to Decide, will explore the role of public art and co-creation in sustaining and championing Unicef's child-friendly cities in the UK and wider Europe. We'll be looking particularly at the case studies of Helsinki in Finland, the first Nordic city recognized by UNICEF in 2024, and Nottingham, UK, which is a candidate for official recognition as a child-friendly city. So for today's event, we're thrilled to be joined by 5 amazing international and UK speakers who I'll briefly introduce now. There's no order to this, but I'll start with Pirjetta Mulari, who is the Chief of Children's Culture for Helsinki and Director of the Anantalo Arts Centre. Then secondly, we've got Sanni Priha, who's an artist from the Other Spaces Collective in Helsinki. We've got Kathy Mahmood, who is the Challenge Manager at Challenge Cultural Education Partnership in Nottingham. And we've got Rebecca Baynard, Collaborative Programme Lead at Primary in Nottingham. And the event will be moderated by Manijay Verghese, CEO of Open City. You can find further information on each speaker's work and their bios in the link which we will have just put in the chat. Before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to quickly mention some virtual housekeeping. So if you experience any technical issues, please use the chat button at the bottom of your screen to chat privately with our dedicated tech support. And if you would like to ask the speakers any questions during the discussion, please do so via the chat. There will also be an opportunity for you to ask questions verbally at the end of the discussion. So at that point, please use the raise hand button and Manager will invite you to unmute your microphone. But please feel free to keep your cameras on as it's so lovely to see everyone who's in the room. And to see our speakers consistently, we recommend that you either select the speaker view or select gallery view and click follow host's video audio. Closed captions are available by selecting the CC button at the bottom of your screen. And we also have Sumaya Sitayeb, our BSL interpreter, with us today. So if you require BSL, please also pin them on your screen. As you heard at the beginning, we are recording the discussion today. I do hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, I'm delighted to hand it over to Manijay to begin the discussion. Thank you, Manijay.
Thanks, Mala. And as mentioned, my name is Manijay Verghese, and to give you a visual description, I'm an Indian woman with shoulder-length black hair, and I'm wearing, if you can see a bit of it, brightly coloured red, green, black and white jacket. I'm really excited to be part of this discussion today and to hear more from our amazing lineup of speakers about what it means to create a child-friendly city, as well as ways to meaningfully engage and involve children and young people in the co-creation of our cities and spaces. This is something I've long been interested in, but specifically right now through our work at Open City, where we have an education pathway that engages young people from ages 8 to 18 plus in the making of their built environment. I'm also a Mayor's Design Advocate for the Mayor of London, and the Research and Urban Design Practice Publica authored guidance on making London child-friendly for the Greater London Authority in 2020. And so I think Anna from Publica is going to be on this call in the audience, so hopefully she'll be able to contribute when we open it up to the audience for questions later. But just to frame the kind of urgency of this discussion, I just thought to give you a few stats. I think by 2030, 60% of urban citizens globally will be under the age of 18. And currently in the UK, the House of Lords Built Environment Committee is inviting oral and written evidence to better understand the role that children and young people can play in shaping the built environment. Since their current challenges right now in the UK, we're trying to build 1.5 million new homes. By 2030, a program of new towns and expanded settlements and several major infrastructure projects. And that's going to provide the context for a lot of today's young people to live out their future lives. So involving their perspectives feels absolutely critical. I think over the next hour or so, we're going to hopefully involve you all in a really exciting discussion. As Mala mentioned, we're going to be hearing from speakers from 2 case studies of child-friendly cities at different points in that trajectory, and really looking in more detail at how artists, commissioners, and institutions can work to ensure that children's voices and young people's voices, their needs and priorities, are integrated into how we make decisions about our cities. So to start with the kind of framing of this around the UN Declaration on the Rights of the Child, it defines children's rights in 3 parts. The right to be safe and protected, the right to a high quality and sustainable environment, and the right to involvement in the decisions that affect them. A UNICEF child-friendly city is a local system of governance committed to fulfilling children's rights, where the voices, needs, and priorities of children are integral to public policies, decisions, and services. It ensures that children live in safe environments, have access to the services they need, and can influence their community. And the Child Friendly Cities Initiative acts as a framework, usually over a 3 to 5 year period, for local governments to achieve these goals. So with that in mind, I wanted to ask each of our speakers to start by talking about what the Child Friendly City has come to mean for each of you in your work, especially in terms of how you've engaged children and young people in projects and or policies or processes. So maybe Kathy, I can start with you.
Hello. Yeah, that's great. Good to be here, and thank you very much for having me. So I'm Kathy, and I am just to describe myself briefly. I'm wearing a black top. I am middle-aged and have brown mid-length hair. Okay, so for me, it's come to embody, for me, the definition of child-friendly city and what it's come to mean for us in Nottingham is that really it's an approach, it's the commitment to ensuring that we are working together as a whole city. It's really it's developing how we think and collaborate and programme everything that we do for children and young people in the city. So obviously we're on this journey, you know, we haven't yet had our official acknowledgement as a child-friendly city, but we do believe that we can be a child-friendly creative city in the way that we're working together. And that means that we're on a mission to ensure every child engages with arts and creativity in schools and in their communities. And within that, my role is to facilitate the way that partnership happens across arts organisations and with anyone that works with children, wherever they might be, that they feel like they have a place to belong and learn and share together. So what we really want to do for our child-friendly city here in Nottingham is share resources and opportunities so that children really see themselves in the ways in which things are developed, and they can really genuinely have a voice. Overcoming barriers to participation is at the heart of everything we do, and we're really wanting children's rights to be recognised and for them to understand their rights. So we speak up for them, but give them the mic as well and amplify their voices.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Maybe Rebecca, I can come to you next.
Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca, and to give a visual description, I'm a white woman with brown hair pulled back. I'm wearing glasses, some small green earrings, and a green jumper. So I guess to build on what Kathy was saying, I'm also based in Nottingham, and I'll be sharing a kind of case study about a very neighbourhood-based project called Build, Create, Play. The project that I'll be sharing has centred on the redevelopment of a local playground and really long-term work with children in that micro local area around the playground, which is opposite the art centre where I work. And I think building on what Kathy said, this really sort of focused neighbourhood approach is just one small contribution in the citywide initiative. So from my perspective, from that experience, I think that becoming a child-friendly city happens through a network of smaller neighbourhood-based initiatives that work in connection with a citywide vision. And I guess it's in those kind of specific places and projects that children get a very hands-on experience of being involved in something and in being involved in change making. I also feel like it's been really important to learn more about child-centered and child-led practices, and to have the opportunity to work with groups who already put that into practice. So there's something about amplifying good practice where it's already happening, really learning from community youth projects, from play schemes and schools, as well as from the different partners that have been involved in the whole scheme.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. And now to move from Nottingham to Helsinki, Pirietta, can I bring you in?
Yes, hello. And with visual description, I am white, female, red-haired at the moment, and I change my hair sometimes, and wearing blue and green. And greetings from this time, actually quite sunny Helsinki with the climate change. We tend to be quite warm in May already, so it feels like summer. Thank you for inviting me to this forum, because it has really made me think that, what is actually the Unicef definition of a child-friendly city. And I understood that I think that children culture activities in Helsinki have for long been child-led, child-centered in many ways. We have been very aware of children's rights to art and culture. And it may be because Finland is a vast country and we actually have very good municipal politics, or that we tend to say that every child in Finland needs to have right for arts and culture. So it's in our genes in a way. In my own work, I think that what the child-friendly city has most brought is, for instance, child impact assessment in all our processes, which is something that we didn't possibly do in that kind of way that nowadays we do. And I think that the nomination has really made difference in different sectors. For instance, our urban environment division at the moment, they're really looking for how to participate children and young in decision making, for instance. So I think that, looking at our Helsinki city strategy too, participation has been a big value. So I'm bringing in Culture Kids as a project here, and I'm really interested in also opening up a bit more how we have children and young people in the decision making, for instance, in Helsinki. So lovely to be here.
Thanks, Pirietta. And Sani, I come to you next.
Hello, I'm Sanni from Helsinki. Nice to be here. Thank you for invitation. I'm white woman with in my mid-40s. I have brown short hair and I'm wearing glasses and peach shirt. So I'm an artist and researcher, and I'm a member of Other Spaces Collective since 2013. And Other Spaces is a performing group that invents and develops physical collective exercises through which it is possible to experience other modes of being and experiencing than human. And I'm here to talk about really our project called Rhizome Project, which we did already in years 2020 and 2023, so it was prior to this Helsinki being named as a child-friendly city. So I'm talking about the period of work that I've done with the collective prior to the initiative. But since our collective was originally founded in 2004, and we really had not done very much work with children specifically until 2018, when we started working more on projects that engaged children. So it's a very interesting thing to think about how the work has developed as artists, how we have changed our methods of working since we started engaging with children more. So I think one of the questions is that we've really thought about with children is the question of how to frame the space for doing these exercises, that needs to have a safe space for children to both be connected with each other, children being connected with adults, bodily, physically, touching, how you create that kind of a space where you are free to express yourself without being embarrassed, how do we guide and instruct things that creates this kind of atmosphere that these things are possible. And how we create space for children to talk about their experiences, something that might be very new for them, previously not non-experienced sensations, how we can create a space for them to openly discuss these kind of experiences as well. So that is one question. But I think one of the things with this project, RISM project, that I'm bringing here today is that is the question of structures and public art projects, how they operate, how they are funded, and how this project came to be. Was that the project was commissioned as a public art project by Helsinki Art Museum as a percent for art project, and that means that 1% of the publicly funded construction or renovation budget is allocated to art projects. So typically something concrete and long-lasting. So when this school building that we worked with, so the project was a collaboration with a primary school and Helsinki Art Museum, but when this school building, old Jugend-styled building was put into plan to be renovated, this headmaster, Jouni Leivö, decided that they were not interested in having a new art object, painting or sculpture in the building, but instead wished to commission an art project that would engage and participate the students. And the consultant and curator of the Percent for Art project, Kristiina Ljokkoi from Harm Museum, approached Other Spaces Collective to carry out an art project with the school. So in general, this way of understanding public art as that can be also live art and socially engaging with people in general, and in this case with children specifically, it was kind of a brave and progressive and unexpected from the school and the museum. So as artists, we jumped in to this project that we had never done before, and trusted that we can with our previous almost 20-year experience try something like this with children as well. So I think this is something that is interesting in relation to the question of child-friendly city and how we can engage with public art productions, children. And maybe just final point, I could mention that what we have in Other Spaces thought in general with working with children, we have mainly worked or some more projects that we call transgenerational, so that or intergenerational, that we invite people of all ages to come together into participatory performances, and the idea being that people from all ages can learn from each other. And in this case, we think that the adult can learn from children very much. And this is the kind of space that we try to create in our work in general.
Great, thank you. So having heard like a sneak preview from each of our panelists, I think we're now going to move to a round where they'll each have the opportunity to delve deeper and share their screens to show us some visuals to go alongside it. So I think I might start first with Kathy, to come back to you to speak more about the steps that Nottingham has been taking to become a child-friendly city, and specifically the Challenge Initiative.
Yeah, of course. So here in Nottingham, we have a programme that's been supported by the Arts Council called Child Friendly Creative City that I mentioned, and it's building on all kinds of work that's been happening. I've been in this role for 7 years, so over that time it's been very much like developing relationships across the city with arts organisations that work with children and young people, local authority-based folk, people that work in housing and health and education, so that we're ready for opportunities. So it feels like something that we're always going to be working towards, because it's about how children access and engage with their city. And while Nottingham has a really vibrant, incredible arts offer, we've got some wonderful museums, galleries, theatres, there's always more to do to embed children's voices in decision making and overcome barriers to participation in that arts offer across the city. And essentially, we're wanting children and young people to be to see themselves while they're children within the cultural life of the city, and for them to be the ones that are shaping it. So we're moving away from just talking about arts offers and bringing those to children, and more to do with co-creation and programming together and how that can happen. So over the last few years, we've intertwined our cultural education partnership with the wider city ambitions to become an internationally recognised child-friendly city. And this means we've been using the languages of children's rights much more. And we talk about creating a cultural guarantee for children in Nottingham through our Cultural Rucksack programme. I am going to just share my screen because it brings it alive a little bit, doesn't it, when you see some images. So let me just do that as well, and you can have a look at some of the things that have been going on in Nottingham. Let me just get that up. So let me just check that works. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. Okay. So this was the launch. This first image was from the launch of the Child Friendly Creative City programme at Primary Parliament. We have a Primary Parliament in Nottingham that meets every term, so 3 times a year over 3 days in our big, beautiful council house. And children from about 30 primary schools come together over that time to really explore the issues that are important to them. So it gives them a voice, and they meet councillors and decision makers and have opportunities to share the things that often come out around safe and healthy environments, and the good parks and green spaces, and the importance of not bullying each other, and not dropping litter, and the things that children really care about. And I suppose one of the things that has really struck me when we first began the sort of Unicef journey of becoming a child-friendly city there was a discovery phase in the first year where about 9,000 children participated in surveys and events and workshops, and were asked to draw up the priorities, the key badges that we would work towards. Health and well-being, education and learning, and safety were the three key priorities. And equal and included was decided to be a golden thread between all of them. And so, yeah, the key thing that struck me was that children gave us all a really clear message that they wanted Nottingham to be a kind and inclusive city. And I feel that has given us all a really clear mandate to work towards that in everything that we do. So how becoming a kind and inclusive city can reach through into this cultural offers and the opportunities that children have, it kind of drives us all, I think, within the Challenge partnership. There are loads of organisations involved in Challenge and the wider network. But when we were successful in our Arts Council application and the Place Partnership bid, these were some of the named partners who also are contributing through their own projects, as well as the work that they're doing with schools and communities. And so we're bringing together like a vast range of programming and planning and resource to make sure that children, wherever they are in the city, can have opportunities to engage in arts and culture. You can see here that there are galleries, there are theatres, there are universities, cinemas, dance organisations, all sorts of things. So it's really kind of drawing on all art forms, and a lot of the organisations that we work with have associate artists that are now also becoming part of the network as individual practitioners as well. And the way that we're wanting to support those individual practitioners and create a creative task force for the city through various kind of training events and other things, just is really bolstering the infrastructure and ecosystem in Nottingham, making things possible, really. So I wanted to just show you a few pictures of things to inspire you and show you what we've been up to. This is a project that we enjoyed last summer, where we took over an empty space in the city centre. It was in a Victoria Centre where we could, where people weren't necessarily coming on purpose to take part in arts activities, but where we could sort of draw them in and they could access a whole range of different daily opportunities to take part. You know, we had a cardboard making area, huge chalk walls, a big sticker wall there where we asked children and parents to draw their special places in their own space within their city and within the world, and add them to the wall. All sorts of different artists and creative practitioners, including young creatives, were there to facilitate sessions throughout the summer, and it was fabulous. And rather than be in one place this summer, we're going to be touring the Summer Arts Pop-Up around neighbourhood spaces this year. So that's an exciting prospect. Another thing that we've been doing, this is a voice box. It looks a bit scary, but it's one of the voice boxes that we now have about 20 voice boxes that have all been designed by children. They're all bespoke, and it's all around pupil voice in schools, and an opportunity for pupils to anonymously talk about the things that are important to them, the things they'd like to change within school. And it's really focused teachers' attention on the ways in which they have genuine pupil voice and make changes. There's a lovely video that you can watch with some of the things that have changed based on pupil voices. And it's an ongoing programme, so more schools are asking for their voice box. And we're hoping that we get at least half the schools. There's about 120 schools in Nottingham with a voice box over the next year, which would be great. And one of the things that we do is work really closely with local communities and local arts forum to develop arts festivals in their places, because it's not just about what's going on in the city centre, it's about Nottingham City as a whole, in neighbourhoods and all across Nottingham. So these arts festivals are just a brilliant way to have a focus on local creativity and what people can do within their own spaces and communities, and it brings people together, and it's just the heart and soul really of a lot of the work that we do. And this, the talking about children's rights and their right to a broad, adventurous, creative education has led us to develop something called the Cultural Rucksack, which is a whole range of opportunities for teachers to feel inspired and supported by the art sector, but also to work to understand the needs of schools and the things that teachers can also teach us within the art sector as well. So things that have come about because of this programme are things like the Send the Galleries group, which is for children with additional needs to access galleries because they were often missing out on trips and things. So we're developing a whole host of opportunities to ensure that teachers are able to overcome the barriers to organising visits to beautiful arts venues, and try and find ways in which we can embed regular visits for each year group to a Nottingham venue, and overcome common issues like transport, or overcome common challenges that might be around just understanding what's going on, to like recognizing that we need to gather the engagement data so we understand which schools are engaging with which organisations and can fill gaps where possible. So the Cultural Rucksack programme has a really big ambition, and it obviously needs all of these incredible partners to make it real and bring it to life. And all of our partners are engaging in understanding what they can do, who they're currently engaging with. We share expertise and we share knowledge across the city to really empower each other. So we have a whole CPD programme for teachers and artists and arts organisations, and that's become a really important aspect of our work. And then finally, there's we also have a youth cultural partnership. So it's a kind of younger version of the strategic cultural partnership in the city. And it draws on young people from 16 to 24-year-olds who are representing an art form or an organisation. And they become the Challenge. They are the Challenge Youth Board, and they have their own website and go organise their own events. And it's a kind of part of our governance structure. So I think that's just another important aspect of finding out what children are wanting and needing, and it being younger people themselves that are asking some of those questions. So yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen. I hope that gives you a flavour of some of the things that we've been up to, and I'm back.
Yes, thank you. That was brilliant, and a great way to show, like, I guess, how you really engage the whole city in kind of putting children and young people at the heart of decision making. I think, Prieta, maybe to come to you next, like, Helsinki became a child-friendly city in 2024. So could you tell us a bit more about, I think you mentioned you're going to talk about Culture Kids, but could you talk about how this has been upheld since in practice as well as through cultural offerings?
Yes, very much so. Yes, so Culture Kids is a program where we invite all the families that have a baby. So this is a program for 0 to 6-year-olds, kids and their families. So it's ever-changing audience in that sense. And it started in this format in 2020. And it means that if you have a 0 to 6-year-old child in your family, you are invited to 2 free cultural activities a year. And we have 30 organizations in Helsinki who are offering these events, and they are city theaters, the Finnish National Theatre, there is museums, there is a circus center, dance theater, Hurjaruut, Finnish Museum of Photography, so a whole range of different organizations. And thinking of the Unicef's Child friendly values, the whole program is based on the idea that every child is invited to arts and culture, regardless where they live or their program. And we believe that once you invite families and children from the early age, quite naturally, they are engaged to art and culture, not just one-off stands, but on a longer period. Accessibility is a key principle of the program. It's designed to be really low threshold and easy for families to take part in. And we really ask feedback from the families. So at the moment, we have 18,000 feedback answers from families and kids, how they have felt about the activities and so on. So, and we also, yesterday we actually had a forum with all our Culture Kids organizations. So we had 30 organizations again sharing their practices, sharing this feedback. So it's constant process of working. And I think that the most important thing is that we're really trying to engage the children in the feedback, because believe that they actually know better than the adults. It's just our problem if we can't actually ask the way the kids can answer. And strong focus is on children and families in more vulnerable situations. So we have really human resources to go into our neighborhoods to tell the families about the program, to help them register and so on. And I think that this also has brought into a question cities cross-sector cooperation. So we're actually working with the social sector. So when a baby is born, they go to the nurse for the first or second time. So the nurse is actually introducing that, hey, there is the Culture Kids program, that would you like to join? So it's very important that our education, early childhood education, social and health services also recognize the needs and this kind of program. And now that there has been actually a private funding for this program until now, there is Janne and Aatos Erkko Foundation that has funded the program. And in this Helsinki New City Strategy, this is all actually in Helsinki budget now. So we continue running, coordinating to the program with Helsinki City budget. And I want to show at the same time that I speak a bit that you understand what these things are. So you can see that there has been a lot of events, a lot of institutions, and of course the baby activities, they're really designed for the babies and their adults, and it's more participatory than anything else. There is, as you see, babies can make art. There are musical activities for babies. And it's interesting that our city library has actually been part of it, and they have really played with text and theater. And even our sports services found their cross-sector ways. So they were playing with dance, circus, and physical activity. The museums have actually found new audience members. Our Design and Architecture Museum has really revealed the new sector of babies and their adults for their audience. So this has also been an interesting learning process for our cultural institutions. So I really recommend as a city, if you are able to build up a network of institutions of the city around you, because many times cities like Helsinki, we have the resources to actually build up accessibility and things that the smaller organizations might not have. So we can really work together to make the city more child-friendly. And I think in this sense that we get the children to be participating in things much more. I could talk so much more on this, but I think that this was a good glimpse. I'm very happy to answer any questions on this.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And like, I think lots of common themes emerging between what you said and what Kathy said before. And I also love the idea that we're tapping into kind of social and health related networks through the nurses' visit. So hopefully we can come back to pick up on that. I think Sani, moving to you next. I think in the introduction you mentioned how your collective Other Spaces is engaged in participatory performance work, but evolved and adapted this to work with school children through this Rhizome project at the Helsinki Art Museum. So I wonder if you could elaborate a bit more on that project. And I think you have some exciting visual material to show us as well.
Yeah, thanks. I will share my screen to begin with. So I hope you can see and hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So, well, the Other Spaces group has a long history in creating specifically participatory performances and exercises, and where exercise itself is considered as an art form. And our exercises are based on precise but simple bodily techniques, which can be adapted by everyone and for their own body, regardless of their age and abilities. So, of course, also for children. So the idea behind these exercises is they are like transformational exercises, psychophysical exercises, and through which or by that getting in touch with different forms of experience can alter us and our behavior. And the exercises can increase our understanding of mutual equality and interdependence between all kinds of living beings. And so we learn about animals and plants and geological formations and machines and even humanoids through our exercises. We have developed over 200 exercises so far through our history. But then also the exercises are based on scientific research or relevant theories. So we always give background information about the phenomenon or the being that is being studied in the exercise. So when we started thinking about the project with school, the rhizomatic theme being the kind of thing that brought things together for us or allowed us to investigate several kinds of themes. We had to start thinking like how we first of all open up the concept of rhizome or with 7 to 12-year-old students. So we made to something that was kind of maybe, well, not completely new, but we have done some audiovisual work before as well. But so we made a video presentation that visualized different phenomena that we studied in relation to the rhizome, the concept of rhizome. And what we also what we also adapted a little bit our existing or old exercises that we wanted to introduce to the children so that they were simple enough to remember. And also we had to adapt the duration of the exercise to first of all, to suit younger participants. Some of our exercises are previously been quite like from, let's say, from 15 minutes to 3 days long durational exercises. So we had to make some scaling of duration to also to fit the individual classes. We also made some alterations with the workshops, depending whether we were working with the 7 years old pupils or the 13, almost like coming to teenage years. So different approaches a little bit, but with the same theme. But overall mission was not so much to change our working methods to suit children, but to present the student also with our practice as a form of art that most of them had not previous experience of. When we talk about participatory performance art, it's still not exactly popular art form. And we really wanted to work as seriously, as playfully as we would with normal adult audiences as well. Now I'm forgetting to show the slides here, but here we have the school building where we started from. This is the school that went into renovation, and here we see the in the right hand corner below we have the Eira seashore where they moved for the duration of 3 years. The whole school moved here into this. You can see maybe a little bit of that gray building there behind the trees, and that was their the school building for 3 years, and that's where we worked with the pupils. But yeah, maybe the biggest alteration or the biggest question that we had to think about was really the question of working with school during the school time, where the students are not voluntarily coming to workshop. So we were kind of in between, or really had to think about the question of like they are in school environment when they kind of have to do what they're told to do, and we normally work from voluntary basis. Obviously, people come if they want to. So this was a question that we thought about a lot, and there's not really an answer to that. But maybe I could show you a film extract from documentary film that we did of the project. We observed the process with one class that we were allowed to film with. So we have about half an hour documentary about the full project, but I'll show you a few minutes clip.
Tuleeko teillä jotain mieleen sanasta rihmasto? Siellä.
Elimistö.
Elimistö, kyllä. Siellä.
Ehkä joku kasvi.
Koska
mun mielestä sanasta rihmasto tulee mieleen vähän niin kuin juuret tai jotain.
Joo. Tai joku tieverkko tai vesistö. Tänään me tehdään sellainen sienirihmastoharjoite.
Kuvitellaan, että me ollaan siellä maan alla, maan karikekerroksessa. Maan pinta meni suunnilleen tässä ja ollaan noin 3 senttiä maan alla, siellä missä se sienirihmasto kulkee. Se liitetään osaksi niitä muita sieniä ja sienirihmaston osia tämän maton kuteen avulla. Eli te kaikki tuutte ole kosketuksissa toisiinne tämän kuteen avulla ja pääsette kuvittelemaan, miten siellä maan alla rihmastossa tämän maton kuteen välityksellä teidän välillä siirtyy informaatiota, sähköimpulsseja, energiaa, vettä ja ravinteita.
Eli nyt meillä on ryhmät, missä miettiä aiheita. Mitä asiaa olisi mielekästä tutkia tämmöisellä ruumiillisella ja mielikuvaharjoitteella? Mikä asia kiinnostaisi? Miksi haluaisi muuttua, jos voisi? Ja kannattaa tietenkin miettiä sitä, että mikä voisi olla omasta mielestä hauskaa.
Eli kun se on tehnyt tälleen, niin sitten se osuu vaan sille. Silleen, se niin johtaa sitä sähköä siihen. Niin se on just se, että se lataa sitä. Vähän niin kuin se sähkön virtaus. Se virtaa se sähkö siellä johdon sisällä.
Onko se niin kuin johto kuitenkin, missä se siellä...
Aloitetaan tonttisakkuharjoite.
Nyt etsikää lähin vapaana oleva pluspää. Kun liikutte, pitäkää huolta, että luokan akku pysyy ehjänä. Ja tämä rinnakkaiskytkentä tapahtuu ranneotteella.
So we started the project with introducing our own practice and ended it by the facilitating workshops where the school students could come up with an idea of a subject they wanted to study through an exercise that they developed the technique for themselves and then did with the whole school their exercise. But maybe what I would still like to come back to is also one of the main thing of our exercise is also after the exercise to share the experience and kind of new knowledge that is gained through the exercise. So here you can see some of the students' experiences from those exercises, and I think one of the most noticeable was that we were able to create a space for the children to feel that they could rest and relax, and that was something meaningful for them. And we realized that this is actually something that is not that often thought about when we think about how to engage with children, that they also need places to rest and have a moment to think about the meaning of life, like somebody said after experiencing the being mushroom, for example. But maybe I'll stop sharing here.
Great. Thank you so much, Sunny. It was great to see people just moving collaboratively and like the hearings, reading some of those quotes about what that experience meant to them. And it seems like across the presentations, networks are emerging as a theme, whether that's of communities, of organizations, rhizomatic ones. But maybe that's a great segue to you, Rebecca, to tell us more about Build, Create, Play, which is so much more than a project to remake a playground, but also to build relationships in and with public space. So maybe you can tell us more about how that engaged children and families with their rights to play, to safety, and the importance of community building.
Thanks so much. I will also share some images as I speak, so just bear with me. Okay, can everyone see that? Great.
Yes.
Thank you. So Build, Create, Play was a project, as I said, working with local families and young people around a place called Ronald Street Playground, which is just over the road from Primary, the arts centre where I'm based, and is in an inner city area in Nottingham. And the playground was a very neglected space with rundown equipment, and it was earmarked for redevelopment that was going to be supported with something called Section 106 money. So just briefly picking up on the point that Sani mentioned earlier around the Percent for Art scheme, we don't have that here in the UK, but the Section 106 is a small contribution when a new development like housing or student accommodation is being agreed, and that should go into supporting city infrastructure in the area where the development is. That doesn't always happen. So the playground was planned to be redeveloped, but there were some delays during the COVID pandemic, and there was uncertainty about how, when, and if the playground development would go ahead. So some initial conversations we had with people living locally surfaced quite a lot of frustration and also fear, a feeling of kind of being forgotten. So we started the project to try and ensure that local people, and particularly children who use that space, had a voice in the process and were involved in decision making in some way. And it started with a pilot project running sessions with artists and play workers working together to start conversations with the families and children around that playground. So artist Charlotte Tupper ran sessions alongside the Toy Library, who are a local playwork organisation. And a lot of those early sessions were around bringing different materials onto the site and playing and seeing how that activated the space, and I suppose helped to kind of imagine and talk about the future in a very tactile way. So thinking about form, colour, texture, shape, the feeling of the space rather than a slightly drier language of planning. So as with many public realm projects, the timeline for the redevelopment was quite uncertain. It took a long time for the council to obtain the additional funding that they needed. And throughout this kind of ups and downs and the sort of uncertainty and the slow process of what was happening at a city level, it felt really important to keep a spotlight on Ronald Street and to keep a direct and open dialogue between decision makers and the young people who use the playground. So in the end, we worked for over 2 years, continuing to run regular play sessions on the playground. And Ismail Kokon joined the team as the lead artist when Charlotte was less involved, and we continued to work with the Toy Library. And through all of this, in addition to the focus on the playground and the change that was going to happen, we hoped would happen and how it happened, fundamentally, the project was around building relationships with local families and children and providing a consistent play offer and access to lots of regular sessions in an area that's had a lot of cuts to services for children. And that's something we may or may not have time to kind of go into in a little bit more depth, but I think it's a really important one in relation to some of these projects we've been talking about. I think I just wanted to centre play. You know, the whole project was around a playground, and it was around how important it is to be able to play in public space in cities. And throughout everything that we were doing, play was kind of a way of using and claiming public space. It was the way by which we were understanding how children use the playground, what their needs were, the needs of different age groups, and it was also a way of maintaining visibility. One of the things that came up quite frequently in different stages of the project and the conversations was around, Kathy already touched on safety being something that had been raised in Nottingham for children and young people who'd been involved in the wider child-friendly city conversations. And that came up a lot, particularly in the winter, around sort of access to spaces, how it felt to move through your neighbourhood in the dark. And building on this conversation, one of the things that we did through the sessions was to work with the children to create a light parade that sort of highlighted their ideas about safety in the neighbourhood, and also invited different people in the neighbourhood to kind of participate and to see what they were doing. We also, one of the play workers who we worked with, really brilliant, all the play workers we worked with are really brilliant, and I just want to honour Ben Rogers, who I'm kind of referring to now, who we sadly lost last year. He was a really key part of this whole programme, and he talked about the way that play in public space helps to build community and supports young people and families in making connections and feeling a sense of ownership and belonging, and also the importance of having spaces outside of school and home to gather and play and form relations and figure things out, and to do that in a place that feels safe. As the project developed, we built a good relationship with the Parks Department of the council, and with local councillors. And I think, just to mention, I think one of the key things in developing these sort of partnership conversations projects, or spaces where children's voices are really genuinely listened to, is also about the adults who are involved and if they're open to that. And we were lucky that somebody kind of joined that parks team who was really proactive. And so they came down to various points of during the sessions and listened to what the kids were saying, looked at the different kind of visuals and things that had been shared and made and models, had lots of discussions, and all of this helped to inform the final designs for the playground. And when the designs were ready, there were kind of options that were brought to the young people to decide between. And finally, as a result of this kind of ongoing relationship and project and dialogue that's spread over all this time, as that final development of the playground was agreed, the council created this 9-metre long space for a public artwork that could be painted onto boards, so it could be kind of updated and changed in the future. And the artwork was designed by Ismail through a series of workshops that focused on capturing movement and forms of play and imagination, working really closely with all of those young people we've been working with over the years. And that was launched alongside the new playground in summer 2023. And I think just the final point I'll add before wrapping up is that I think that the development of the playground itself and the public artwork were really important impetus and central focus for the project, and for also kind of seeing tangible change in a neighbourhood where children had, actually been invited to and taken the risk of sharing their opinions and their energy and all their input into this. But beyond that, there's been a long-term commitment to providing regular creative play sessions and to building this really kind of long-term relationships and community around this site. And also we continue to do sessions over at primary as well. So I think that in some ways those kind of less physical outcomes have been the most important ones for us in terms of the project. I'll wrap up there.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I think it's a really amazing project, but also I think important to centre the challenges of working in these spaces where there are limited resources, where people have been exposed to kind of cuts and deprivation over a long period of time, and the importance of kind of continuous programming and access to play at the heart of cities is, continues to be urgent. I've got lots of questions for all of you, but I'm conscious of time. So I thought maybe it's good to first open things up to the audience, because I can see that there are already some questions in the chat. I think the question I can see by Jess maybe is a good place to start, because I think it picks up from where you left off around who are all these initiatives really for. And I think when you were talking about centering kind of play in the city, it made me think of like how we kind of lose our sense of play as we grow up. So Jess, are you happy to ask this question and we can unmute you, or do you want me to read it out? If you raise
anything, I can ask. Hi. I'm going to read it as I've written it, but yeah, I've been reflecting a lot about the different presentations and all the programming that you guys are doing, and it's really interesting, and it's been making me think a little bit about like who is really being developed when children participate in these creative activities or city making. Like, are we building long-term civic capacity and cultural identity for the children so they have an engagement in cultural activities from a much earlier age? Or are we also maybe using their presence and perspective to relearn something that we may have diluted in ourselves? Imagination, curiosity, an instinctive claim on public space, and indeed play. And if that relearning is genuinely part of what's happening in this work, how do you evaluate this? How do you sort of adapt evaluation techniques and processes to capture these impacts?
I don't know who wants to take that first.
I'm happy to take it if you like first.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, because we're actually looking at all of our evaluation processes at the moment, and putting together various packs and guidelines and things for all of the partners. And I think it's both, isn't it? I mean, we're not doing one or the other. I think we're really wanting children to feel valued by and seen, like valued by the city, and like they have a sense of belonging to some of these spaces that sometimes it's hard to get through over the door, or some arts venues aren't always as welcoming as we'd want them to be necessarily, or people don't feel like they're for them. So a big part of what we do is trying to make sure that welcome is really clear, for everybody to feel like access and openness is for, and arts are for everybody. So that's a really important thing that we're trying to do, definitely for children. But obviously, I would hope that everybody that works with them for Challenge also has opportunities to be creative themselves, and that we are embodying the things that we want our children to also have an opportunity to do. So we need to also find the time as a partnership to reflect and play and experiment and come up with things and discover. Not be afraid to fail sometimes and share the learning, and be really honest in that, in our partnerships and in our collaborations, because it can be kind of, it's long-term work, and it's all about trust building, whether it's across a partnership of professionals from different sectors, or whether it's, you know, one-to-one work with children. So I think for evaluation, to be a bit more direct on answering the question, I think we need to just make sure that our evaluation processes are creative themselves and honest. And there's a million ways of doing it. But yeah.
I could continue a bit. I think that there is a research topic on itself, because I think that in city scale, you often go for quantitative numbers, and this really would be qualitative thinking and so on. And I think that this in culture kids, we can actually have resources for evaluation. And what you are explaining, I think that we're really doing both. We are in the end, we're participating children and so on, but I think that we're really trying to get our imagination back as adults. I really feel it also in everyday life, because the world is mad at the moment, and so we need to also think different. So this times are also challenging thinking, and there is a lot of play imaginations actually in the hard speech, also in media at the moment in Finland. So thank you for this question made me think a lot.
I just wanted to check, but first of all, if Rebecca and Sunny, if you wanted to add anything to that question, but also I'll see if there was any more questions from the audience.
Maybe I could continue still a bit further. That well, to be honest, our group is not very good with. We haven't been very systematic in evaluation. We operate as freelance artists mainly, so this is you know what that means in terms of valuation collection. But what our goal, really long time pedagogical goal, is to look ways to meet the challenge of the Anthropocene and ecological crisis, and we want to increase the understanding between species, and at the moment we have a project about peace. So it's not we are always thinking about the circumstances that we live in, and try to find ways to collectively change our position and attitude to make it better. And also in terms of ecological thinking, we think that these exercises are meaningful way to experience nearby. You don't have to travel far. You can make an exercise and visit other spaces. So this is our philosophical point of view. So we really, of course, make it for ourselves because we enjoy. It's about pleasure as well. It's about enjoyment individually and together, and learning to enjoy corporeally together, collectively. So this is what it's for in principle.
And Rebecca, did you want to add anything?
I think it's great to hear everybody else's answers, and let's make space for one more question.
Okay, great. There's one more question in the chat from Elizabeth. Would you like to ask it yourself? Hopefully they can unmute you.
That's better. Yes, have any of the speakers involved young people, children with access requirements in their work? Because you know, there are some additional approaches that you might employ that would also benefit everybody when thinking about spaces in the city. I'm thinking about multisensory, you know, thinking about multisensory experiences and play.
Maybe I respond to that first, just to say yes, and that you bringing up kind of multi-sensory approach was a really big part of the process for the project that we worked on, and also I guess having the kind of experience of the different play workers and things that they brought along, and the artists and the things that they brought along, so that there was lots of different ways to be a part of, participate in sessions. Also, I think the kind of play-led approach meant there was no, although we were sort of broadly talking about the playground and what would happen to it in the future, the whole approach is very much about doing what you feel like doing when you're there, with support and guidance if you need it, but that it's that kind of freedom to pick up and interact with things and be in the space as you come. I'll let someone else add in.
I think, Kathy, you spoke about the SEND Galleries group, so you probably have some.
Yeah, the way that we're approaching things is through communities of practice and supporting action learning projects. So schools can apply for action learning funding to bring groups of children with additional needs to gallery spaces, but that funding can also help creative practitioners go in and do pre-visits with the school, get to know the teachers and send co-leads, and really learn from that experience, so that then when they come back to the gallery staff are also learning about the experience, and it's all about what we can learn and share together. And you're absolutely right that getting things right for children with access needs will improve things for everybody in other ways as well. So we're working collaboratively and have that open send galleries group for any school to send staff to join in that conversation and dialogue. And by doing the action learning visits and having children there's obviously ways in which we're evaluating those programs as well and developing case studies. So we've recently employed 2 new access inclusion specialists to work alongside Challenge, and specialists from the Attenborough Art Centre in Leicester as well as our kind of critical friends with that type of work.
Yeah, that sounds great. Henrietta, please go.
Yeah, another art center for children and young, and so we have constantly children or young people with special needs in the house, and we have 2 actually groups. We have a dance group with children of special needs aged 7 to 18. So everything we do, we always involve them. For instance, we will have a big renovation, so we have had actually a round tour with them, but it goes much deeper for pedagogic and so on, because we have all the school children coming to our house eventually. So it's a lot of work with different needs with kids. So we try to involve them as much in all our activities, thinking and learning every day. We have 14 artists working in our house, so we have a staff that can really work on things like this.
Great. Sanni, I didn't know if you wanted to add any last words before we wrap up.
Well, no, I don't. We have so little experience with working with children to begin with, and we haven't had a specific project with children with special needs. But of course, we don't. When we worked with school children, they were all included in the project. So and in some of the other performances, participatory performances, we've had elderly people with special needs. So, for example, difficulties to move from chairs. So they have been instructed to use their way of movement, and it's been so far good experiences for all, especially these transgenerational projects when there have been corporeal connection, regardless how you are capable of moving yourself. So there we have some beautiful experiences, but this is something that we really try to think about constantly, that how we could find ways to engage with all kinds of bodies and beings. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to close this conversation. We've got so much more to discuss that maybe we need a follow-up session. But I think that intergenerational approach is maybe what makes the Child Friendly Cities initiative so powerful, because often when you start with children, you bring a whole community together because of their families, carers, teachers, educators. Like there's, I think it's a great way to really make sure that cities make us all feel equal and included. And I thought those were great words as a kind of thread that stitches the initiative together. So I just wanted to end by saying thank you everyone for attending, and huge thanks to our 4 amazing panelists and to Up Projects for making the space for this conversation, which feels ever more urgent to take place and for us all to learn from. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manoj, Sanni, Prieta, Rebecca and Kathy. It's been really, really insightful to learn about the ways in which you've brought children into dialogue with culture from as early as the day they were born in Helsinki to regular involvement in framing their rights in the primary parliament in Nottingham. And what's really stayed with me is the importance of being open to creating spaces for children to be genuinely listened to, and that we really need consistent programming and an embedded infrastructure for children to engage with cultural organisations in our cities. Thank you also to everyone for participating and for your great questions. And thank you to Samaya Sitayeb, our amazing BSL interpreter. Our next Assembly series will take place later this year. So please do keep an eye out for further details of the event, dates and speakers, and do sign up to our Constellations Assemblies newsletter, which I think Jack has just put in the chat. I'd also like to encourage you to join our Constellations Exchange, which is a group on LinkedIn, which enables the Constellations community to connect and share resources and thoughts. And it's really great to see so many people have joined already. If you would like to share any reflections on today's event or further reading and resources, please do join the group, and we look forward to seeing you there. Again, there is a link in the chat. And finally, your feedback, talking about evaluation, is really important to us, and to help make sure our assemblies are responding to your needs and requests. And we've added a short survey link in the chat, which would be really grateful if you could take a couple of minutes to complete. Thank you so much for joining us today, and another huge thank you to our wonderful speakers and to the fantastic team at Up Projects. I look forward to seeing you all at our next assembly.